14 gears, roll off, and it works great. It's 65, I had 80 millimeter rims on it, and the chain line still works.
All you guys remember, there was a lot of skepticism about the real need for wide tires way back when. I mean, I can remember Rocky riding, 2.5s or 2.7s right up until, I think his last Iditarod, he rode 2.7s. Yeah, well, you don't weigh much more. I mean, the problem is you got to take all that stupid gear in the winter. So, what do you think made the, why did we suddenly realize that a wider tire worked better?
Because we used to get snow.
You're just going to throw out the one-liners all night, aren't you? I rode 2.7s and, some of those old, what were they, with the hubs with the stubs cut off. They must have been a Nokia, what? Yeah, something like that. It was a big old Nokia, and if you cut all the lugs off, you could bend a frame and make them fit. They almost worked. And then we started going wider and wider, and now we're, 5-inch tires and 100 millimeter rim.
I can answer that question. One word.
Walking.
I have one of the ideas was, I had the triple tire bike, and there were 60 people in front of me. The trail was hard. The trail got soft. I passed them all back.
So I have a question about that 6-pack bike. What was the middle rim? Because I've seen pictures of it, and the middle rim's bigger than the other rims. Is that like a 700cc rim in the middle, or how did
The rims are all the same, but I used a high-profile tire in the middle, and it gives it a real nice rocker. The problem with the double tires is that when you come into a turn and you're banking up, you'll break the skin of the snow and you'll fall in. Right. But with the triple, you're always on two. And when you're riding on, and when it's hard, you're only riding on the middle tire, so you don't have the rubber resistance.
And how many of the triples got middle?
Just one. just one. Yeah, thank you. So,
what did you guys use for a hub?
well, I was telling Les the story. So I wanted to. There's a local builder and who built the first frame, and we sat at the kitchen table and we designed it, and then he built it, and it was a fantastic bike. But after riding it to Nome, you have plenty of time to think about improvements, and that's where the triple came up. And I flew to the Atlantic City Interbike show, and I met Phil Wood there. And I showed him the pictures from riding to Nome the first year, and he's really excited about it. And he's just a little guy. He's just a genius machinist. And he said cycling used to be just about fun. Now it's just about business. He says, I never get to do the fun stuff anymore. Can I build those rims for you? Or can I build those hubs for you? I hadn't even asked him yet. Can I build those for you? And I said, yeah. I said, I got all my drawings here and all the dimensions and that. And he said, I'll send it off. I'll send the drawings off to the shop. And when I got home 3 days later, they were sitting on my doorstep. And I don't know if you've looked at those hubs, but they're like jewelry. They're just beautifully made. And he made the spindle as well. He had a 225 millimeter spindle. Yeah, right. But he wasn't the only one. There was another. Pardon? Well, when you're wearing a lot of clothes, it doesn't make any difference. But the other design that we worked on was from a company named Vertec. And I'm a road rider. I did bicycle race for years. And so I thought of sew-up tires. They're really, really light. And this company, Vertec, they made disc wheels for racing bikes, and they would use aerospace glue to glue aluminum skins onto the side of sew-up rims. it was before the days when they had carbon fiber and all that. And so when I saw their design, I thought, oh, this would be awesome for a snow bike. And so I talked him into welding or gluing 5 rims together side by side. So, you get, it'd be about a 9-inch, use bigger rims. And use the cyclocross tires, so you'd have pretty good traction. And it's really light. But the problem was that when it arrived at my house, it had about a 1-inch wobble. They didn't jig it up right, and I didn't have any time, so I went with the Phil Wood rims, or the Phil Wood hubs.
So what happened? I mean, we only built one, and then it all kind of went away. I mean, the Snowcat came, and nobody really innovated till this guy came along. I mean, why the dead period in there?
Yeah, well, it had to be all special made, and at the time, I mean, Les had made these really innovative brakes that were like the precursor to all the V brakes, and we're like in the same boat. It's like, who would want to do this? And so that's where it ended for me, and I started a family, and I didn't see any money in it.
Are you out of debt yet? Are you out of debt yet?
I've got carbon projects. I mean, it takes years to recoup the money after you design and build carbon ramps.
But you saw some money in it, right?
But obviously, it's probably the fastest growing segment in the cycling industry.
And how much longer do you think that will continue?
I think for many years. I mean, maybe 10% of the people have bikes now. Maybe less.
But it's got to be frustrating because you design a carbon frame and you have the tooling and all that, and suddenly everybody wants now bigger tires, and so now your frame's obsolete, and now you got to come up with a whole new one. So
You gotta buy
and
a
now,
new one.
yeah, they're up to 5.05 wheels now.
Make it neat. How about an adjustable rear triangle?
Yeah.
Adjustable fork so you can
Yeah,
expand it to the next tire width.
So when Ray and I were talking on the phone over here the other day, we were talking about how a lot of this has changed and how much faster it moves. He thought China was a good thing. You have to compete with China. I'm curious as to what you think there.
Oh, we don't have near enough time to go into that now. It's a double-edged sword. Of course, they've invested in the manufacturing. They do incredible work. I've gone over, I've visited factories. But just to give you a quick story about my Corvus that I spent a lot of time and money and effort in the design phase, and I contacted a manufacturer. I got a non-disclosure agreement with them, but they don't make the molds. They contract out with someone else, and they pass my drawings along, and the next thing I know, I'm getting emails from another Chinese company trying to sell me back my own frame that I haven't even produced yet. It's incredible. So yeah, China, there's good and bad about it, and it was a huge learning curve. So for what I do now, I use a manufacturer that they make their own molds, and anything I send them stays inside, in the house.
It's kind of an interesting change from what you were doing, isn't it, Mark? I mean, did you ever think we'd see this kind of competition to sell bikes versus trying to get people to buy them?
well, I definitely thought we were onto something. It was just trying to get the public to do, and I think we were just a little bit ahead of the curve there. But I enjoyed it, and everybody I sold bikes to really enjoyed it. But it was just
I remember you lobbying people to buy bikes.
Yeah,
I mean,
please,
actually,
begging.
pretty
Right, please buy one. But it was slow to catch on. At first, winter riding was looked at as kind of oddball. You're out there in the cold, like you said, in the wet, and when I was out there was nobody else out there on bikes, and snow machiners would go by and just, what the heck, where's your motor? And it just wasn't accepted. So you had to do a lot of explaining all the time. But I'm glad to see it. It did catch on, and it's a cool sport. I mean, you get winters like this where there's really no snow, and skiers are buying these now, and so you can get out and have some fun, and it gives you something better to do. I never thought it would catch on this big. I'm glad it did, but it's cool, you know.
So you built them to ride on sand. Is anybody riding sand down your ways these days?
Not a lot of that. Not a lot of that going on, but that's what I had. You know, I had the sand there, but I was building them to bring them up to Alaska because I wanted to do the 90. You know, at the time it was a 95 when I first started stitching up the tires, and I wanted to do the 96. I did a sport, and then, like I said, when I got back from that 96, that's when I was just like, I can just keep making it fatter. I can keep going with it fatter. It's the same thing I've done here. I can just keep going with rims, tires, and then I'm going to kind of say something about the China thing. It was I think what I meant was that the China thing was good for the general public in the way of making things available, you know, at a larger scale. I can't say it was good for me because because it was like you know, I'd already tried dealing with the Chinese before I did the stuff in Mexico City, and I got a lot of just, you know, doors slammed in my face and stuff, and even after I had the rims and tires, frames and forks, they still kind of were stubborn about the market. And I think it was until QBP and through Surly sort of convinced them, and they had pull. They had pull because they were buying already millions of dollars worth of product from them. So they could say, hey, well, we want this. And sort of in my opinion, it's just my opinion, I think they regressed a little bit at first, Surly, because they kind of made it back into a mountain bike tire, not a sand or snow tire. Because they went from, we already had this platform that, say, I had established with the tires and rims, and that gave you more a footprint that once they did the narrower 65 millimeter rim, it rounded the tire out again like a mountain bike. And back then I was looking at skis, and skis were not round like they're right. I'm not saying that they didn't have some that were, but the ski itself, yeah, for a reason. And so, you know, then they caught on, but it took them like some years there to realize that, hey, let's go ahead and do, and I don't even think it was them. It was folks up here in Alaska who, because I had some issues that happened with my availability of my hoops, my rims, and that was sort of the platform. And it was some stuff that happened with the guy that was doing my work that he got in trouble, didn't pay his debts at Alamance, and that shut us all down. We couldn't get rails, you know, we couldn't get our 20-foot rails, and I was like calling him, and we're like, well, you know, this is $20,000. So, but then up in Alaska, I'm pretty sure it was here.
So I was just going to ask, when did you start making Umas?
2007.
2007, what was before that?
Who was before?
Yeah, well, were we still riding snowcats up to that point?
Snowcats or
Yeah, the Remolinos, which were really hard to get.
Surly rim, I think that was 2005.
Oh, the large
bar
was
was
2005.
2005.
Yeah. It was about 1,200 grams. We have entire rear wheels with tires on them that are lighter than that. That was the rim alone.
So how much of an inspiration for the Uma was that one? You know, the large mark, which was a double wall, heavy.
The first Uma was just because I didn't have any snowcats, and I had enough customers that were asking for a rim that would fit on their bike. So in the process of doing the bigger rim, we did a 50 millimeter version and did them in 29ers as well. So, but I would also, we touched on it a little bit before, but we definitely should talk a little bit more about Steve Baker. Because,
Oh, it's
that bike, I don't know if you saw that icicle that was sitting over there, but that thing is an absolute piece of art. It's so beautiful. And Steve was an inspiration to me. I met him in 1978. I started riding, and Bjarne was around. He's probably the oldest member of the Arctic Bicycle Club. Now, guess when did you get started?
The second year of the club's existence.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome.
76.
So anyway, Steve was he was kind of a crazy mad scientist, genius, way ahead of his time, which I think is probably true in just about everything that he's done. But he really did create something. it's a shame that he couldn't be here tonight, but he definitely needs to be recognized.
He had another version, Dave Ford. He had a bike, we put a race on out the valley, and he had a bike that looked a lot like what we're riding now. He had a big tire on there. I didn't look at it real close, but it may have been 2 rims or 3 rims together, but it was one tire. And I think Steve Baker built that one too. So that was just, were you familiar with that at all?
No. He's Ford won the Idea bike that year, didn't he?
I think so, yeah.
But it was a push. He was a wood chopper, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the year the wood chopper won. He was just stronger than everybody else.
Right. But anyway, he did have one, and I'm still trying to figure out who built that bike, and I've never seen it since or heard about it. So.
So did any of the rest of you guys think about building your own tires? Apparently it can be done.
Yeah, losing no brain cells.
Zip ties, that.
Yeah, that was just something that happened.
Was that to hold the tire together, or did the bead
It's just
blow
to
out?
hold it, it's getting old, and I still ride it every now and then out on the sand dunes, and it started splitting, and I just didn't feel like breaking up the needle thread or the solenoid. But, you know, this is kind of, I mean, I don't know, it's still just a tire.
How long did it take you to sew one of those?
Oh, it'd take me a couple days to make one.
Is it machine sewed or?
It is machine sewed. I tried doing hand stitch with just a sewing all, but it was just kind of coming out too crooked. So these are actually, the first one's a seatbelt webbing. These other ones were, I was getting just hemp canvas and gluing it on, laminating to ripstop.
Yeah.
And then the ripstop had the little squares on it that I could use as a guide
Oh, yeah. Oh, I
to try
see.
to make it as true as
So
possible.
that center section is not a tire casing?
No,
sewn in
this
there,
is
it's
actually
actually-
hemp canvas with
Oh, I see.
with a laminate of ripstop.
Okay, got
And
it.
then the hemp canvas
Oh,
on the
I know.
outside, the
Yeah.
ripstop on the inside, it's green on this one. You might be able to see it right
Yeah,
right,
yeah.
right. Well, it's, and so the hemp canvas was porous enough that it would take the rubber glue really well. But that came last. The stitching was tricky because, okay, at first, we're trying to do it, and my buddy, I'm pulling the tire, kind of guiding it on the sewing machine where we cut the table so that it would be able to work
It's
around.
like a real trick to do it on the sewing
It
machine.
was, and then, but we knew it was probably, we had to do it. So we learned just from a gal at the sewing store, she was like, "There's some masking tape," because we were nearly taking our eyes out, and we were making it work, but the needle would bounce, and it would break,
Yeah.
and it'd shoot at us. We were wearing goggles to keep from losing an eyeball, and then the gal was like, "Yeah, we're just putting masking tape on the rubber." So the masking tape gave it like a
Oh, and so it punctured through there.
punctured through it, kept things going. And I made a whole bunch of these. I made probably at least 10 or something of these. And some of them turned out better than others. But the hand canvas was the best because the glue stuff is so well good. Plus it's really strong enough to make sails. It got everybody over here from Europe to the United States. And
It's got a nice low profile, I like that.
no, I think this is kind of what I wanted back then. This could have changed everything actually if it had come out like this, because I think the tire we ended up with, a little too low. It was actually an English 1.6. It was a strange tire. It was pre-mountain bike. The tire on that one Tornell that came out, it was a 1.6. It was before mountain bikes. It was an English tire that they were using over there before Richie and Breeze and all those guys were doing their thing. We ended up with, again, just a tire. I think the world's ready for something else. I'm bored with it.
Yeah, John Evenson once remarked to me that everybody was getting on board with the fat bike thing, and said, "Gee, I gotta find a new sport so I can carve out a new niche." There's a guy in Florida that's doing some interesting stuff with 29 rooms. And, profile, low, wide.
29 room was about the same height as.
Same height as the 26.
I met the guy in Mike, studied, I think he studied some of my stuff after, because he didn't come out with no profile until after I chatted with him. He called me a bunch on the phone. And he had an elevated chainstay bike. It reminded me of my days. The frame was kind of heavy, not an elevated chainstay. And I was like, wow, man. I was at the trade show. I never did this in 99. And I was trying to like just sell him some things. And I dug his 29er rim. And he had some kind of 29er tires there. They looked like one of these weird wide rim, narrow tires that you put on the and so I don't know what tire he's got going now. I mean, he's probably throwing lots of money at it, but I think there is something to that other diameter and all that. It's going to change your amount of footprint. But I just think we need to move on to something else. I think it's time for something new. I think it's not that far away.
Well, the cool thing is that this isn't necessarily the end, you know, it's kind of the means to the end, so.
It's going to always have a place, though, I think. I think it will always have a place, you know? These tires, they work. These rims, they work. Unlike now, they're always going to have a place, and I think it's the majority of the market. I think if anything else comes out, it's going to be a narrower market. The next step is what I like to call dedicated.
Well, you know, talking about the next thing, I remember sitting at Steve Baker's kitchen table, and you know, we were talking about things that you guys have all probably talked about: tracks, skis. You know, we didn't have the pogo stick, but you know, anything was possible. And we tried a number of things. I mean, we did try skis.
Yeah, those are miserable failures.
Oh yeah, it didn't work at all.
I tried that.
Yeah, and if it was long enough to get flotation, it wouldn't turn.
Right.
And it would have been just,
Yeah, it would just slide on.
yeah.
And I think the ski still has a place, but it's not the. I think it's just for like the skid.
You need the gyro.
Yeah, you need a gyro.
Yeah, that really makes a difference. It's nice to have
Braking power is nice. Yeah, brakes would be nice. Brakes are a nice thing.
Have you guys heard about that $500,000 fat bike?
Oh, the golden bike?
No, this is a $500,000 to $1 million fat bike, and it comes in sandbags so that you can keep it on the ground.
It's not Neiman Marcus.
That's good. Helium in the tires or something.
Just weighs less than that.
Helium might be good or something. Yeah.
Tease us with your next great idea.
I'm trying to figure out what to do here because I'm still just a tinkerer. It's all fun like I feel like I hope our thing is different when it gets to manufacturing, development, and the marketing and all that. And still have these dreams, and I've got some bits and pieces laying around the junk pile, the boneyard I call it, at home, you know, and I'm just trying to figure out how to not just have fun with it. I made tens of dollars on the first stuff, and I lost thousands, and now I'd like to maybe make 100,000. And I want people to just have fun. I think it's sooner than later. Something's going to come about, and what's going to happen though, again, is the Chinese, they may be quicker about it with something new, that they'll see it, and it'll be so easy for them with their manufacturing abilities and all the new, carbon fiber and stuff, that they'll be able to make some pretty killer stuff. But like I said, I feel like I still have to do a little bit more R&D. But I've had already some very hopeful stuff about, and I'm just trying to figure out how to go about it, and if you guys have any advice, I'm all ears.
Well, here's a guy.
He's giving me some, we've chatted, and he's right, and it's just a matter of, like they told me from the beginning, and these are guys like Joe Breeze, you know, I used to talk to him, and he's a super cool guy, I just love him, he's super down to earth. He's just super, and I was buying dropouts from him, and he just told me that, just make it, just make it and sell it, and then people are gonna do it, and then, you know, maybe come up with something else. And I talked to some other guys who are true engineers, I'm not an engineer, and they kind of told me the same thing, man, you can't protect anything in these things.
Yeah.
It's very, very hard. It's funny how somebody might come up with a spoke, and you might get a patent on that one, and you're kind of protected.
Well, that's what, when I met Phil Wood at Interbike, he told me the same thing. You know, he had lots of patents. You know, the first disc brake, the first coneless hubs and all that. You know, sealed bearings and all that. He just said, just be the first one, make it well, and get a name for yourself, and then move on to the next.
No, I just kind of want to get back into having fun. And that was a big part of me getting my butt up here last week this year. And I'm going to go out and spend some time on the trail and give it some more thought, and maybe throw a little pieces of, just do some this and that. And this is where I've always gotten inspiration up here. You know, it's always been, like you said, you're out there pedaling, it gives you time.
Yeah, a lot of time to think. Yeah.
Time to design, and you punch through, and then you're like, well, what can I do here?
So did you read? I mean, you remember it? You've seen the little historical account of the gold miners that
Yeah,
were the
they
Anchorage
were
Trail. I mean, had
inspired.
you